Hello everyone! In this week's video, I'm drawing myself into anime scenes. Sometimes when I'm on Twitter or I'm googling an anime, I'll see these screenshots that have been edited and people will edit in their characters or themselves. I always think this sounds kind of fun, so I picked 3 anime shows, looked through the episodes for some good screenshots, and now I'm going to draw myself into those scenes. So let's get started. The first anime I'll be drawing myself into is School Babysitters. I never really see people talk about this anime, so it's probably not super popular, but it's really cute. I thought this one would be fun to work with because I would get to draw myself in baby form. So I start by copying one of the toddlers and moving them into the spot I want to place myself in. Now this is just for fun, so we're not going to get into the ethics of tracing and copying and all that stuff. I'm just goofing around and having fun drawing myself into some anime screenshots. And to make it look as accurate as possible, I'm going to trace over existing characters. I will draw over the character and use other characters as references to draw myself. I did think about trying to draw myself from scratch without tracing at all. However, I knew that if I did that, my own personal style would shine through and it wouldn't look as convincing, so I opted to trace over a pre-existing character to get the base in place. Like I mentioned, I never really see people talk about this anime, so it's not very popular, but it is one of my favorites. Basically, it's about Ryuichi and his little brother Kotaro. They lost their parents and now have to live with their grandma, who is the head of the school or something like that. And her condition for taking care of Ryuichi and Kotaro is that Ryuichi has to watch the kids at the school daycare. Also, I'm sorry if I'm saying Ryuichi wrong. They always just call him Big Brother in the anime, so I never really hear characters say his name. So yeah, this anime is really cute. As I was looking for a screenshot, I kept getting distracted and would actually start watching the anime because the characters are just so cute. This screenshot is from episode 2. All of the little kids sneak out and look for Kotaro's older brother. So after sketching myself, it was time for the line art. I noticed that the line art is not black, it's a dark brown, so I used the eyedropper tool to get the correct color and proceed to work on the line art. Also, when I was working on this sketch, I drew out where the one character that was in front of me is overlapping me. That way I don't draw myself in front of the character, since I'm technically behind him. You may be thinking that the design for my baby version doesn't really look like me, like where's my glasses, and I don't currently have bangs. But this design is based off of me when I was actually a little kid. My hair was much lighter and I had bangs and it was kind of short. I didn't get glasses until I was like 9 years old. We didn't know that I needed glasses for a really long time, and I actually had a hard time reading because of it. We thought I just wasn't very good at reading, but no, I just couldn't see. My parents would tell me to go find stuff and I could never find anything. We figured out I needed glasses one day when my mom was like, "Becca, look at that sign over there." And I'm like, "What sign? I don't see anything." She then kept trying to make me look and read different objects that were kind of far away or close by. I'm not nearsighted or farsighted. Everything is kind of blurry. And there's never a point where things are clear. So yeah, my eyes are kind of weird. But yeah, once my mom kind of tested me on seeing if I could see different things, she was like, "Yeah, you definitely need glasses." So after the line art, it was time for the base colors. I'm glad I started with this screenshot because overall the coloring and shading are very simple. So I feel like it was a good warm-up screenshot to start with. For all of my colors, I tried to pick from colors within the screenshot. That way my colors wouldn't look out of place. For the irises, I copied the style of shading from this baby over here. I'm sorry I don't remember all of their names. I haven't watched this anime in a pretty long time. It was pretty easy to mimic. I just filled in the iris with a color and then added a lighter shape in the bottom that kind of suggests the pupil and kind of gives the eye a simple shaded look. I did decide to add the highlights in a different spot. I put them in the upper part of the eye instead of the bottom part. Even though I'm trying to fit in with the style of the anime, my own personal preferences still kind of shine through a little. So once I felt like my drawing was about done, I noticed that it was much clearer and a little more crisp than the rest of the picture. So I went to filter, blur, and then blur again. And this made my art look a little softer and better fit in with everything else. I felt like adding this blur made it look a lot more convincing. Oh, also I decided to change my eyebrows. They were different from all of the other characters, and I thought that they should match. I never noticed how small and tiny the eyebrows are. And here is me in the style of School Babysitters. I really love the style of this anime. It was so fun drawing myself in it. Now for the next anime, I am going to be drawing myself in Haikyuu. If you don't already know, Haikyuu is like my favorite anime, so I definitely wanted to try drawing myself in a screenshot from it. I chose this screenshot with Yachi and Kyoko. They are both managers of the Karasuno volleyball team. For my base, I decided to use Kyoko because I thought it would be a better fit for me than Yachi would be. Kyoko is about 5'6", so I am 2 inches taller than her, so I placed myself a bit higher up so I would be taller. After getting the base in place, I start modifying it to make it look more like me. I am drawing myself a bit different than how I usually draw myself. Recently, I've been parting my hair in the middle instead of on the side, and my hair is pretty short right now. I keep feeling like I should update my channel art and the chibi version of myself because they both feel kind of outdated, but I can never seem to find time to update them. At first I kept wanting to draw myself into a scene with Hinata and Kageyama because I thought it'd be fun to see myself next to them. However, when I saw this scene, it looked like I could really easily place a third character right here, and it would make sense for me to be by the other girl characters. This scene is from Season 4, Episode 1. I wanted to pick an episode from Season 4 since it has the new style. The nice part about using Kyoko as the base is that she also has glasses like me, so it was really easy to fit in the glasses. Next up is the line art. Like with the previous screenshot, the line art isn't black. Instead, it is a very dark brown. When trying to make characters look like myself, I draw them with very round eyes because I think my eyes are pretty round. I also do things like give them a similar hairstyle, and I often give them thick eyebrows because my eyebrows are kind of thick. Oh, and give them glasses, of course. The anime screenshots I'm drawing from don't seem to have any variation in line width, so I'm actually using a brush that doesn't change in size depending on how much pressure I apply. I use the 4 Effect line pen. It stays the same size no matter how much pressure is applied. I have it set to the 3 size for this screenshot because that seemed to be about the same width as all of the other line art. It was kind of fun using a pen that didn't change in size because I didn't need to worry about keeping the pressure consistent. I could just focus on where the line needed to go, and I also didn't need to change the size of the pen when drawing different parts because usually I'll make my line art a bit thinner and thicker depending on what I'm drawing, but for this it just stays the same size all the time. After the line art, it is now time for coloring. Once again, the coloring and shading are pretty simple, so it's pretty easy to mimic. The screenshot I'll be working on after this one is a bit more complicated, so we'll see how that one goes. This scene didn't really have any browns for me to use, so I grabbed a picture of Asahi for the color of my hair and eyes. I also used a lighter version of his skin tone for my skin. It's kind of interesting how animes have a color palette that they kind of stick to, and you can tell if a color is outside of that normal color palette. Like if I used a super bright fluorescent pink, it would look really out of place. I tried my best to mimic the hair shading style by using Kyoko and Yachi as references. I kept looking back and forth to see if where I was applying shadows seemed similar to the other two characters. For the highlights, they are just little lines of lighter color. It's a simple but effective way to convey hair highlights. It also gives the hair a bit of texture. When shading the jacket, I basically just kept looking at Kyoko's jacket, but I tried to make it a little different. I didn't want to copy it 100%. Like I mentioned, we are just having fun, so we're not going to get into the ethics of copying and tracing. It's not like I'm doing this all the time for my illustrations and claiming this is 100% my own work. This is just for fun. So yeah, don't get mad at me, please. Coloring the eyes was kind of interesting. They use an off-white for the sclera. I found this was the case for all the screenshots that I redrew. They would use an off-white instead of a pure white. Then there was a cool gray shadow along the top of the eye. The shading in the iris is very simple and kind of subtle. And the highlight is the same off-white color as the white of the eye. Once again, to make my art look less crisp and fit in with the rest of the picture, I apply a little bit of blur to it. And ta-da! I am now in Haikyuu. I kind of want to do this again, but draw myself next to some of the male characters, just because I think it would be kind of fun to see. I would be about the same height as Sugawara, and just a little shorter than Kageyama. So for this last screenshot, I wanted to draw myself into a magical girl anime, so I chose one that I've been watching recently, and it's Healin Good Pretty Cure. The art style is super cute, and I think it's really adorable. I haven't finished this anime yet. I'm on like episode 14, so I'm still pretty early on into it. I actually don't remember which episode this scene is from. I went through so many episodes to find a scene that I could draw myself in. Because there are 3 girls, Grace, Fountain, and Sparkle, in all of the scenes that include all 3 of them, they are very evenly spaced, and there was never a good spot to place a 4th character, so I finally decided to go with a scene that only had 2 of the characters. This one has Grace and Fountain. I wanted to include all 3, but yeah, I just couldn't find a good one. When I saw this one, I knew I could really easily put myself right here, and it wouldn't feel too out of place. So like with the other screenshots, I copy one of the characters and move them to the spot I'm going to be in, and then trace over the character and modify it to look like myself. This one by far took the longest because the characters are so detailed. I can't imagine, well I can imagine, but needing to animate these outfits all the time must be so much work. Major props to the animators that need to redraw these over and over again. It must take so much time and effort. When starting to work on the line art, I noticed that all of the line art for the characters slightly vary in color. Like the line art for the pink one is more brown and reddish, and the line art for the blue one has a lot more blues. It's something that you don't really notice when you're watching, but they take the extra time and effort to make the line art different colors around different objects. I really admire that dedication to detail. So for my design, I wasn't totally sure what to do. I do have short hair, but because all of the girls get long hair when they transform, I gave myself really long flowy hair too. I decided to go with a leaf theme for my character because the only color I could make me without duplicating a different character's color scheme is kind of green. I was thinking of using purple, but I think a purple character comes in later in the anime. I could have used red or orange, but I felt like this would be too similar to the other characters, so I decided to go with green. And green makes me think of leaves and plants, so I used a lot of leafy-like shapes in my design. Grace already kinda has a plant theme, but hers is more flowery, so I felt like I could get away with a leafy theme. One of the parts that took a really long time was the wand. It has so many details, my goodness. Also, each character has an animal companion. There's a bunny, tiger, and penguin. At first I was thinking of maybe doing a panda for my animal, but then I thought of a duck and I thought that would be really cute. Like I mentioned in a previous video, I really like ducks recently, so I wanted to give myself a little duck companion. Like I mentioned earlier, I decided that my color is green. The character's hair changes colors to match the color they transform into, so my hair should technically be green, but I still kind of wanted the character to look like me, so I stuck with brown hair. I think the brown hair goes nice with the green. It feels kind of earthy and I feel like it's a nice contrast to the green. Also, kind of like how the line art changes colors, the whites of the characters' outfits also change colors. Like the white in Grace's outfit is more pink with pink shading, and the whites for Fountain's outfit are a light blue with blue shading. So for the white colors in my outfit, I make them a really light green with green shading. For the wands, they all seem to be pretty uniform, so I basically just copy the colors from the other characters for that. Now it's time for the shading. The shading this time is more complicated, so I was kind of nervous about trying to make it look the same. I start by applying the highlights to the hair. I outline the outside edges of the hair with a very light brown. I kept looking at other characters as reference for where I should be placing the highlights. For a lot of them, they seem to go on the back side, but for a few areas, they do go on the front side. They also have these little shiny bits that are kind of different shapes depending on the character. I decided to make mine kind of a leaf shape. I noticed that the highlights have a very soft glow, so I duplicate my highlight layer and then apply some blur to it to fade it out. This worked very well and mimicked the look of the highlights. I did need to go in and do a little bit of cleanup of the eraser, but I'm happy that it looks really similar. Next was the darker shadow for the hair. I just take a dark brown and apply shadows where I feel like makes sense and seems in style with the other characters. Working on this video was a lot of fun and a nice change of pace. It was fun doing something different and experimenting with trying to draw myself in a way that looks like it fits into anime scenes. I especially liked studying the coloring and the shading of the different shows. If this is something you'd like to see me do again in the future, please let me know. I had a lot of fun, so I'd love to do this again. Maybe next time I could pick from different animes that you all suggest, instead of just ones that I watch. If you have any anime you would like to see me draw myself into, you can let me know in the comments. So here are all of the anime screen captures I drew myself in. I think my favorite might be the Pretty Cure one. I'm really pleased with how that one turned out. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons, including Gundam Tanaka, Emily, Lily, Brianna H, Zella, H Jr. Pizarro, Tatiana, Roseskip21, Tomfish, Setsujin, Purple Jessie, Jarell, Bela, Nightmage14, Rogelio, Fairy Dawn Gray, Trash Oracle, Lu6562, Hollow Studio, Dozar89, and Miles to Go, Panda Bear, Patrick, Aaron, Andrew, Robert, Artist Ever After, Tamalam, AJ, Twinvani, Rachel, Eric, and Eduardo. Thank you all so much for helping support this channel and my work. Also, take a look at this awesome art my patrons made. I have so much fun seeing their art. And thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next week in my next video. Bye!